Welcome to Africa Media Australia. I'm Clyde Salumu Sharady, and I've got here with me in the studio William Abu, and I'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself a bit more.
Well, yes, my name is William Abu. I'm from Southern Sudanese community.
All right, how are you today?
I'm all right, thank you.
All right, tell us a bit more about yourself from before Australia to when you arrived in Australia, and what has happened since then.
Well, I'm one of the young Sudanese boys that are called. Sometimes they were being tempted by the Western world, lost boys.
Tell us a bit more about what that exactly means, the lost boys. We've heard that terminology being used a lot.
Well, it is. In fact, people don't like it to be called lost boy because of the long civil war that has affected Sudan. There were a number of boys that were taken from southern Sudan to Ethiopia. And those boys were, they left their parents, they did not know where their parents are. Majority of them again were forced back from Ethiopia to border of Sudan, and from Sudan to Kenya. And they were settled in Kenya in a refugee camp. And during that time, an American woman who was a settlement worker came and interviewed the boys. After the interview, the majority of the boys were unable to describe where their parents are, and they were not sure whether their parents are alive or not.
All right, tell us, since you've been in Australia, what has happened with yourself, some of the things you have done?
Well, since I came to Australia, I actually went to school. I started from TAFE and did a community welfare at TAFE, and then moved on to the social work. So I did my social work degree and then moved on again and did the master's in international community development. Apart from that, I have been working and I have been supporting the community. So I have seen a lot of challenges that are affecting the community while they are settling in Australia, especially the African community.
All right, well, that's quite a bit of achievement there to finish your tertiary education and be involved in social work. So you work mainly with refugee and migrant communities?
Yes, I work mainly with refugees and migrant communities from different backgrounds.
And I understand that you, as part of your master's, you did a thesis on the challenges of settlement.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about that.
Okay. I wrote the thesis on challenges that are facing, the settlement challenges that are facing African community. And this is because I have seen most of the African community families or young people are really struggling with these challenges, and I will mention them one by one.
Okay, let's start with the first one.
The first one is employment. You find people who are capable, who might have a qualification in Africa. When they come here, their qualification is not really recognized, and that really affects the adult group. Young people are not really fitting into a mainstream, and they are not even getting the job. So it's a big thing that is really affecting the community.
Why do you think the young people are not getting the jobs?
Well, the young people are not getting a job because of a number of reasons. One, the system itself is quite discriminative, because even if the young person speaks a very fluent English, it might be difficult sometimes because people are having a very high stereotype that this person may not be able to write and may not be able to read and may not be able to understand the system, may not be able to navigate the computer.
To communicate with the people as well?
Yes, to communicate with the people, especially, a lot of communication in the workplace now are used, through the computer.
So is that perception that even this person may be qualified, or even if they could, the job itself does not require a lot of skills, but young people from the African background are having difficulty getting these jobs because the perception from the managers is that these youngsters will not be able to do the job.
Yes, indeed. That is it is very high. There is no doubt that that people deny it. It is really existing. And I have seen a very talented young people who later on fail, because they did not get opportunity to get a employment. And that is one of the bigger things, that young people become disengaged, and that they become engaged in a negative attitude where they have trouble with the police, and where the police will come up with a report that that
They're
these
committing
are
crimes.
committing crime and all that negative thing.
But is it the case also that some of them just are not interested in finding a job?
Well, not really. I think people, once you reach from 17 and above, you find people wanted to move on and wanted to be stable. But once you don't get a job, you become demoralized, and therefore you become engaged in a negative attitude. For example, you will find the group that is really hanging around the train station and maybe get involved in drinking alcohol, and that's where the problem come up.
Okay.
But if the young person get a employment, a person can be engaged with a job, and there is no opportunity for you to be engaged in a negative aspect, because you will see the positive aspect of being employed,
and you'll be busy, you'll be having projects for your money and all that sort of thing.
And you will also see yourself as someone who is really contributing into the society.
Yes, absolutely. What's the second most important challenge that you've identified?
Well, is again, people are struggling with the housing issue, although it is a national issue in Australia. But again, with the newly made community, or people who are newly arrived, are really finding hard to get their housing. They cannot afford to get a private rent because of the financial issue. They cannot afford to move on to the public housing because there is a shortage of public housing.
Yes,
because
that is a big problem. Shortage for public housing.
Yes,
and it affects more people from refugee and refugee background, doesn't it?
Yes, and that is a big challenge. Of course, if you are not employed, if you don't have a stable income, the private rent is not the best option for you.
Absolutely, that's too expensive for you to afford. So what's the next one that you've identified?
Well, the next one is a family breakdown.
And what do you mean by that exactly?
Well, you find most of the family, the relationship that the African community have in terms of family is seen as a very, very, very strong union. And there's a lot of things in the family, so people respect each other, and family is being respected. That is not the case here in Australia. There are trends that family are breaking down. The relationship is not longer either between husband and wife, or between parent and children. Is not really a smooth relationship anymore. And this is because of the system. The system itself breaks them down. So apart from the other challenges that they are facing. African community is a commonwealth community. There's no way that you can live alone. So you live in the family, and family is set up in the community. And the community is part of the national society.
Yes.
But in this case, in this part of the world, now, people live individually. It's a very liberal individual society.
Yes.
That a teenage boy or a teenage girl does not care what the parents are thinking about.
Yes.
And a wife or a husband may not care about the wife, or the wife is not caring about the husband. So these are the things that are causing. And of course, we live in a welfare society where there is a orientation that is normally happen that, if you are separated, a wife might get more benefit.
Yes.
Than living in a
relationship. In other words, there's incentive. Sometimes there's incentive for people to break up.
Indeed, and that's why the problem is. So the family has got no benefit at all.
Yeah, so even teenagers, they know if they leave their parents, they will be taken
Well,
care of.
indeed, this is what happened in a school discussion. Sometimes you find a young person saying, "Well, I don't have money," and then maybe the discussion is, "Oh, you know what? If you move away from your family, you will get your benefit from Centrelink, and you will be independent."
Yeah. All right. Well, that's these are very important questions that we need to really dig into, possibly in other through other opportunities. Tell us a bit about the last main challenge that you've identified.
Well, there is a group, not all. There are also a group that are really suffering from social isolation.
Yeah.
And of course, these are a typical group that cannot understand the mainstream society, does not understand the system, and this is because of the language barrier. And those groups, even if they sit in the TV, at home watching TV, they cannot understand. They become extremely socially isolated. And this group comprise of the elderly group, elderly members, who cannot, they got nowhere to socialize, they got nowhere to go. And that also includes the group of the mothers, a single mother sometimes, who are caring for small children. So they become also isolated because, they...
So isolation is indeed a big issue.
Yes, it is an issue. It is really affecting some people.
And it is creating, as far as I understand as well, it creates a lot of health problems.
Yes.
As well, because there's a lot of stress, and people are not used to living alone.
Yep.
All that sort of thing. Is that?
Well, I also term it that these challenges, the settlement challenges, are also affecting the psychological well-being and health of the people, because once you get frustrated, once you get your expectations are put down, whether you go for a job interview and you are denied for that opportunity, all your dream and expectations, become down.
Yes.
And of course, you become frustrated, you become depressed, and that affects your health.
Well, these are really important social issues, and I would really want to kind of go into the bottom of it. I am certain that we will see you again to try maybe to go into a bit more details about any of the 4 points that you have outlined today.
Indeed, thank you.
So we'll be happy to see you again and talk more, because we do understand it is important for our communities to not only be aware of these issues but start taking action, and we're happy to showcase any of the people, the community heroes out there who are doing something in these areas to try and make a difference. So William, we really appreciate your time, and we're happy to see you at Africa Media Australia, and we hope to see you again sometime soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me for this discussion.
No problem. Thanks very much.
Thanks.